Hey, how about it, race fans? Richard Allen of motorsportsreport.net, or I should say the soon to come motorsportsreport.net, just to kind of give you an update on how that's going. My son Cody, who's a computer science major at the University of Tennessee, is in the process of building that site, but also at the same time he has to be a student first. And this coming week's when the University of Tennessee is having its final exams, and that's his number one priority, as it should be right now. But hopefully, once those exams are over, he'll be able to dedicate more time. So we're hoping that sometime, hopefully maybe early January, we'll be able to roll out the actual website, the motorsportsreport.net website. For now, we're just using a blogspot page, which many of you have been to already, and we're using the Motorsports Report Facebook page, as well as all the other social media that I'm involved in. So just continue to look for that content until we get the website actually up and running. So there's kind of a little update on that. But anyway, for this edition of Rich's Ramblings, I'm probably not going to be the most popular thing that I've ever talked about or ever said, but it's not really the job of somebody who writes out their opinions or speaks their opinions to be popular. It's to say what you think ought to be said. But my main topic here is a racing champion who wins by the result of a playoff or a chase type format, are they a legitimate champion? And just go ahead and cut to the chase on that answer. And cut to the chase, that's not really an intended play on words there, but my answer is yes, they are legitimate champions going into the season. Even if we take the NASCAR format, the NASCAR playoffs, was Ryan Blaney the best NASCAR Cup Series driver throughout 2023? Probably not. He got hot at the right time. If you look back through the whole course of the season, probably maybe William Byron was better over the long haul of the season, but that's not what the format calls for nowadays. And like it or not, that's just what it is. But, it's really no different than other sports. I mean, how many times have we seen a Super Bowl winner be a team that wasn't necessarily the best team throughout the year? I mean, after all, it's been several years ago now, but New England Patriots won every game up to the Super Bowl one year and then got beaten by, I believe it was the New York Giants in the Super Bowl. The Patriots are clearly the best team, but they just didn't happen to win on that day. And now NASCAR and other forms of racing have started doing that. And of course, this year stirred up a lot of talk with the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series. Ricky Thornton Jr., who led the points almost all the way with the Lucas Oil Series, had over a 500-point lead going into the last race. But as was well documented, going into that last race, the Dirt Track World Championship at Eldora, the points were basically reset. The top four were just kind of thrown in there. Whoever finished the highest among the top four was the champion. And as we now know, Hudson O'Neal finished highest in that group, barely edging out Devin Moran to win that championship. But Hudson O'Neal is the legitimate champion of the Lucas Oil Late Model Dirt Series for 2023. And the reason I say that is because going into the season, everybody knew what the format was. They didn't pull this out halfway through or with 10 races to go. They didn't throw this out there. Everybody knew what the format was, and also everybody knew what the money was. And the reason why many of these guys signed on to do it was because of the money. I mean, you had guys like Jonathan Davenport and Brandon Overton who had been running sort of kind of a little outlaw type schedule, just hitting the bigger paying races, and then all of a sudden they threw in to run the series. I would guess the only reason they ran the full series was because of the chase format. They knew for one, the point payout money was going to be significantly better. And then they also knew, hey, all we got to do is be in the top four at the end when we go to Eldora. And of course, Overton and Davenport are both extremely good at Eldora, so they had to figure just make it to the Final Four. Of course, Overton wound up not making it to the Final Four, but still, nonetheless, I would venture a guess at the reason why he ran the full series like he did, which is not his normal thing, is because of that. And when you look at the money, Hudson O'Neal got $200,000 for winning the championship, and then pay $150,000, $125,000, $100,000 down through the top four. Tim McCreadie won the Lucas Oil Championship in 2021. He made $75,000 for winning it. this year. He didn't make the top four, but he wound up fifth overall in points and made $75,000. He made the same amount of money for coming in fifth that just 2 years ago he made for winning the championship. So the money's there. The sponsors kicked in. It's what the streaming services want because it's going to draw ratings. You're guaranteed a championship battle when you have this chase type format. You know, if we backtrack all the way back through NASCAR, in 2003, Matt Kenseth ran the entire season, only won one race the entire season, but he just basically top fived everybody to death. And going into the final race at Homestead, the championship was already decided. He didn't even have to start that race. As a matter of fact, I think he even came in last in the final race, but still won the championship. And I think the networks decided at that time, that's not what we want. We want a championship battle to be able to promote and for the announcers to talk about and all this. So they got that, and now that the streaming services are exerting the same kind of influence, and you know, sponsors who put up the money for that extra money for the contenders to race for, and whatever the sponsors want, the streamers want, and the TV networks in the case of NASCAR, whatever they want, they have tremendous influence. You know, they're called stakeholders for a reason. They have a certain degree of ownership over the property. You know, and at the end, people may not have agreed. I mean, maybe even some of the competitors didn't agree with the Lucas Oil format. But did you read any story where somebody gave the money back at the end of the year? Of course not. So three out of the four contenders who went to Eldora with a chance to win the championship, I'm sure agreed with the format. Because if it hadn't been for that format, it would have just been a formality. You know, Ricky Thornton would have had it wrapped up weeks before he did. So that, you know, like I said, the streaming services and the sponsors who put up that money for those guys to race for, they want a desirable product when it comes down to it. So. And again, you know, like I said, if that's what the sponsors want, that's what the sponsors are going to get. My son, Cody Allen, who's building the motorsportsreport.net website, and he and my other son, Austin, are going to be contributors once we get up and running. Cody Allen says that playoffs have no place in racing. And going back to 2003, of course, Cody Allen was barely around in 2003, but going back to 2003 when NASCAR announced going into the 2004 season that they were going to use this chase type format, I thought that was the dumbest thing I've ever heard. But now with some perspective, with the ability to look at it and realize, look at the amount of money that's coming in that would not be there. People can talk about this all they want to. The reality is, racing is not a sport based on ticket sales anymore. I mean, heck, just a couple of short years ago, we ran an entire season with empty grandstands because of the COVID stuff. So that proved right there. And it also, people learned, the streamers and folks learned that we don't have to rely on ticket sales to drive this sport. Now, obviously, ticket sales are good. You know, nobody's going to turn the fans away when it comes time to sell tickets, but it's like same thing. And I'm writing a piece here that I'm going to put on our Blogspot page, which I'm going to start doing more of this. You know, teaming a video with the written word, because there are some folks would rather read it, some folks would rather see it and hear it. So that way, it kind of has a little for everybody. But it's the same thing. There's a reason why restaurants have small parking lots and small waiting areas, because it looks full and everybody just driving by thinks, holy cow, that place must be really popular. Look at that. Well, you know, fans in the grandstand give that impression for racing, but the real money in racing comes from sponsorships and it comes from streaming. And if sponsors and streaming want playoff formats, that's what they're going to get. So, you know, like it or not, here it is. So Ryan Blaney is the legitimate NASCAR Cup Series champion this year. He may not have been the best all year. Hudson O'Neal's the legitimate Lucas Oil champion this year. He may not have been the best all year, but he was best when the format called for it. So, like it or not, that's kind of the way it is. I think, this is my personal opinion here, I think we're far closer on the dirt racing side of there being more chase type formats than we are taking the one away that we had this past year. I mean, Lucas, they're going to have that. Coming on, I wouldn't be surprised if we start seeing other series do something very similar to it in the years to come. So, anyway, this is Richard Allen of motorsportsreport.net. If you agree with me, I guess that's great. If you don't, I guess that's the way it is too. But that's the perspective I have anyway. Money matters. We live in a real world, and so that's what's going to drive the boat. But anyway, until later, I will see you at the track.